This is the South China Sea, where there's currently a lot of serious geopolitical tension. The reason is that China is trying to take control of this whole area. The South China Sea covers about 3.5 million square kilometers. It stretches from Singapore all the way to the Taiwan Strait. That's why countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Brunei, Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan are very worried about China's claims. About 80% of the Pacific Ocean's sea trade passes through the South China Sea. China is aggressively building military bases in this region. In response, the United States has also surrounded China by setting up its own military bases. Because of this, the geopolitical tension in the area has become even more intense. Many analysts believe that World War III could possibly start from the South China Sea. In today's video, we'll try to understand why the South China Sea is so important to the world. We'll also look at things from China's perspective. Why does it want control over this area? And finally, we'll discuss what could happen next. So let's dive into the world's most contested sea, the South China Sea. Around 30% of the world's sea trade passes through this sea. Every year, 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas are transported through here to Southeast Asian countries. The South China Sea connects the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. That's why it's a very important trade route. Whoever controls it can influence 30% of global trade. As of today, 5 countries claim different parts of the South China Sea. Their claims are based on the United Nations Law of the Sea. According to this law, each country controls the area of the sea that extends 200 miles from its coastline. This area is called the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. That means the country has rights over the natural resources and trade within its EEZ. For example, if oil is found within 200 miles of Vietnam's coast, then Vietnam has the right to it. Any part of the sea that's not part of any exclusive economic zone is considered international waters. That means, according to UN maritime law, all countries can use it freely. Most countries in the region are making their claims based on this EEZ rule, except China. China says it has a historical claim over the entire South China Sea. After World War II, when Japan lost, China took the opportunity to draw the 9-dash line and declared nearly 90% of the South China Sea as its own territory. Before this, the area was under Japan's control. In 1973, when the UN made a law for a 200-mile exclusive economic zone EEZ, China refused to accept it. China insisted that the entire South China Sea marked by the dotted line belongs to it. In the center of the South China Sea are the Spratly Islands, which are mostly empty and uninhabited. But China, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia all claim ownership of these islands. Why? Because whoever owns these islands automatically gets a larger exclusive economic zone. That's why China is building military bases on these islands, and this is where America gets involved. The US has no direct claim or interest in the South China Sea. But as a world superpower, and because it sees China as a big threat, it wants to stop China's growing military presence. That's why the US is building a belt of military bases around China to contain it. This belt starts from Okinawa, Japan, where the US has 25 military facilities. Then there are more US bases on Miyako and Yonaguni Islands, also in Japan. In total, around 30,000 American troops are stationed in Japan. Next is Taiwan, where there are about 200 American soldiers today. But around 66 years ago, in 1958, there were 20,000 American troops in Taiwan, and even nuclear weapons were placed there. In the 1970s, the US removed these nuclear weapons and also reduced its troops. This is because Taiwan is just 100 miles away from China, and China was very uncomfortable with such a close American presence. It almost led to direct conflict. Next is the Philippines. On Palawan Island, the US has an airbase with about 2,000 troops. On Luzon Island, there's Clark Air Base with about 1,000 US troops. In Sulu, around 500 American troops and an anti-aircraft system have been deployed to intercept Chinese ships. Then comes Vietnam. At Da Nang Air Base, there are about 500 U.S. soldiers. There's also an agreement between the U.S. and the Vietnamese government that in case of war, the U.S. Air Force can use Vietnamese airports. And the story doesn't end here. Another major player in the strategy to surround China is Australia. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia have a military agreement called AUKUS. Under AUKUS, these three countries are building a joint submarine force to monitor the entire Pacific Ocean. The US and UK already have a base at Perth Port in Australia where these submarines are being built. If we look at things from China's perspective, America's strategy looks very aggressive. China's entire sea trade depends on its 14,000-kilometer eastern coastline, and this whole trade route is surrounded by American military bases. China's trade passes through three main straits to reach South Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. 1. Strait of Malacca between Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. 2. Sunda Strait between Indonesia's Java and Sumatra Islands. 3. Lombok Strait between two more Indonesian islands. All the countries surrounding these straits are friends of the US. If these routes are blocked, it could cause the Chinese economy to collapse within weeks. That's why, for the past few years, China has been aggressively trying to control this sea. Today, China has the second largest navy in the world. In 2022, the US military spending was $877 billion, while China's spending was $300 billion. But in 1990, just a few years ago, China's military spending was only $9 billion. China wants to use its navy to protect all its trade routes from any blockade. Its economy is already growing very fast, and if we look at this graph, it's clear that China is about to cross the US and become the world's largest economy. For the past 80 years, the US has been ruling the world. But as we've seen many times in human history, empires rise to the top, then they decline, and someone else replaces them. Just like that, now it seems that someone else is about to take America's place, and that someone is China. The US will do everything it can to stop China from becoming the next superpower. This might include blocking China's trade routes or putting military pressure on them. The US will try whatever is in its power. On the other hand, China seems unstoppable. After forming an alliance with Russia, China has become much stronger geopolitically. This race to become the next superpower has become even more interesting, but it's also pushing the world closer to a major war. For the past year and a half, we've been talking about this growing global tension in our videos. With every passing moment, the world is getting closer to a big war. Let's hope that sanity wins and everyone acts wisely. These are all the sources we used for this video. If you want to see more geopolitical videos like this, do let us know in the comments below. Your comments help us understand your feedback. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care. Allah Hafiz.